This is a recorded case scenario webinar presentation entitled The Legacy of Unresolved Loss. I am Tracy Durden. I am a student at Prairie View A&M University in the Graduate Counseling Program, and Dr. Tate is my professor. Demographic information: Michelle is 15 years old. She's a high school student and she lives with her father, David, stepmother, Kathleen, and toddler half-sister, Jade. The concerns with Michelle is the truancy, not going to school, anger, tension with the stepmother, and grief over mother's death and grandmother's recent passing. Phil's father is unemotionally available. She has a strong connection to her Puerto Rican heritage from her late mother's side. David, late 40s, 50s, attorney, widowed from first wife Diane, remarried to Kathleen. Concerns: focuses on Michelle's behavior rather than her grief, avoids discussing the loss, long work hours, limit availability. As we continue, we have Kathleen in her mid-40s, stepmother to Michelle and Julian, mother to Jade. Concerns: conflict with Michelle over authority, primary caretaker role, perceive Michelle's friends as unsafe influences. Julian, who is 21, he is the son of David and Diane and away at college. Jade is 2 years old, child of David and Kathleen. Unresolved, the family challenges is unresolved grief from mother's death, Michelle's loss of Diane, recent loss of maternal grandmother, Michelle's emotional anchor during Michelle's illness, father, daughter emotional disconnection due to avoidance of discussing grief, stepmother, stepdaughter tension. Michelle does not view Kathleen as a maternal figure. And then you have the cultural disconnect between Michelle and her parents regarding her friends and identity. Behavior changes in Michelle, cutting classes, anger, and defiance. I would apply the attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth. Suggests that the quality of early relationships with primary caregivers form the foundation of emotional regulation, self-worth, and relationship patterns throughout life. Secure attachment develops when a caregiver is consistently responsive, emotionally attuned, and reliable. Insecure attachment develops when care is inconsistent, absent, rejecting, or frightening to the child. Application of the theory: the goal is to strengthen the emotional connection between David and Michelle by fostering secure attachment behaviors. So how we do this, we build emotional safety, facilitate conversations about history, Diane's illness, the death, the grandmother's role, to validate Michelle's grief and identity. This counselor did exactly that. Also increased responsive coach David to listen without defensiveness, acknowledge Michelle's feelings, and respond with empathy. Cultural attunement: affirm Michelle's Puerto Rican heritage and its importance to her identity, using this as a bridge for connection. Consistent boundaries: establish clear expectations with emotional support, not just control. Repair past ruptures. Encourage shared positive memories of Michelle's mother to rebuild trust. So, in my life, current stage, I am in adulthood and I'm focusing on my identity, my purpose, relationships, and caregiving. My childhood, adolescence, my mother was emotionally unavailable despite being physically present. My father absent due to incarceration, later unsafe upon return. Grew up without a secure emotional base record, resulting in, unspoken grief. Turning point in adulthood, shared my story in a faith setting and received validation that it was not my fault. Began a healing process that strengthened my ability to form healthier relationships. Caregiving for, present stage, caregiving for my mother despite past hurts, applying personal insight to help others navigate loss and attachment wounds. So my role in the family of origin is survivor, endured instability and trauma in silence, silent bearer of pain, learned to function while suppressing my own needs. Current role, family role is caretaker, responsible for my mother's well-being as she faces dementia. Bridge builder, using empathy and insight to connect with others in my family despite history. So, attachment theory for myself is early attachment experiences, emotional health across this life cycle, explains both Michelle's grief and behavior with my own family experiences. I did not think that I was grieving, but I have grieved for parents. Um, I will have a spiritual mother, and sometimes I relive the same thing of my mother leaving, because they will probably leave and then don't know how to leave the right way and just leave behind dry. I identify with the impact of loss, absence, and emotional disconnection, and provides a clear roadmap for healing through secure connection. So aligns my life with life cycle stage as an adult, reflecting on early wounds. From an early age, my relationship with my parents was marked by emotional distance and instability. My mother was physically present but emotionally unavailable. While she managed the household responsibilities, she could not connect me with the uh, a nurturing way a child longs for. I often wondered if her feelings towards me were influenced by my resemblance to my father's side of the family. My father was absent much of my childhood due to incarceration, and I did not know the full reasons until I was an adult. So when I became an adult, I found out that my father attempted to kill my mother when I was about 3 months old, and that is why he was incarcerated. I went every other weekend with my grandparents to see my father, but I had no idea that that was what was happening with my mother. No matter how my mother treated me, I still cared for my mother. I wanted that love, and I just was feeling like, what can I do to get that love from my mother? And it was hard. It was really hard. I had to perform a lot. I had to clean up a lot. I had to do a lot of performing in my life to receive love, because it was not just my mom, it was my family, it was all of them. So when my father was absent during much of my childhood, when he returned, our relationship did not provide the safety and support that I needed. These circumstances left me feeling unprotected and unheard without a secure base to turn um, in times of distress. When my father was released from jail, I was about 15 years old. I was in high school, and he wanted to be the cool dad. I had a mother who did not care, and I wanted so badly for someone to care. And My dad invited all my friends over, and at that time we were smoking. And he bought everybody their own to smoke. And I was raped by my father that night. Um, yeah, it was hard because as I went through to understand how to forgive, how to let go, it was hard. And I had to realize that the forgiveness was not for him. I kept feeling like if I forgave him, then I would be releasing him from like punishment or something. But I had to forgive. And he asked me one day, how could you forgive me? And I told him because forgiveness was not about him. It was for me so that I could have a release. But I carried a very long time that those things were my fault. I thought they were my fault. There was a pastor that told me that I played a role in that and it was my fault. And just um, going through counseling classes and understanding the law and everything, I realized that it was not my fault. For years, I carried unspoken grief over the parents I wish I had and the loving connection I never received. It wasn't until adulthood in a faith setting that I was able to share my story openly. A trusted spiritual leader affirmed that what happened to me was not my fault and that I deserve safety, love, and care. This validation was a turning point in my healing and marked the beginning of a more secure sense of self. Today, I am caregiving. I'm in a caregiving role for my mother as she faces health challenges. And that experience is both complex and redemptive. While it brings up memories of past hurt, it also allows me to walk in forgiveness and extend compassion from a place of strength. I've always wanted my mother's validation. I seeked it. When I first began to go to Prairie View A&M University, um, I wanted to become an entertainer, and she told me no. So I chose pharmacy. Of course, Prairie View did not have a pharmacy program, so I did all the science classes that I thought needed to do. Transferred to Texas Southern, and I ended up pregnant, and I decided to become a pharmacy tech to see if this is what I wanted to do. I became a tech in 2000, and I'm still a pharmacy technician. I'm licensed in the state of Texas. I worked for 17 years in it. Did not receive that validation from my mom, but it's all good because God had a different plan. And I ended up becoming a teacher teaching pharmacy, which has been the best thing for me. So I connect my personal journey to Michelle's story of legacy of unresolved loss. So Michelle had all of these things going on, bottled up, acting out because her father was not willing to just explore and go through the grief with her and understand what she went through. And he was just he at first he was fighting it and fighting and did not want to talk about it, but he asked questions, and the counselor, um, she gracefully explained to him that it was necessary to go through the pattern of understanding the mother, the father, the whole line, the generation of what was happening in their family. I was so amazed at how it went from how the beginning started, and they started out and everybody was like so just reserved and not knowing what would happen, and defensive. They were defensive also, and I watched them give pieces and didn't want to give pieces at first. And then you see them in the second one, and she talks to the young lady by herself and understands some things. And then she goes back and talks to the two, the parents and everything. And oh my goodness, and the stepmother wanted to just blame all of these things instead of getting to the root cause of what really happened. And a lot of times in our lives, this is the same thing that we do. We don't get to the root of what is really happening. It was hard to understand the things of why my father did what he did. Yeah, it was hard that he really wanted to hurt my mother. But I guess the joke was on him because that didn't hurt my mother. If it did, she never showed it. When I talked to her about it, and I finally told her what happened. She did not call the police. She just said the Lord was going to handle it. Left me to myself, just as Michelle was left to herself, and the son. I believe the son was left to himself too because he's away at college now. But when he comes in, he talks about the different things that he was actually feeling and he was going through and that was hurting him. And I understood that. And then she went on to explore how the father and his mother relationship. That was amazing. She encouraged him to go and talk to she encouraged David to go and talk to his aunt, who was still living, and it turned out to be a very great thing. And just watching this was amazing. It was really great. Um, for me, just like her, like Michelle, I experienced the pain of emotional absent parent, unresolved grief. I haven't really talked to anyone about it. I've talked to a counselor, but not my family. Talking to my family is, I don't know, it's like this traditional way of, oh, you want to do for your mother because that's your mama. And me saying, oh, but my mom has hurt me. I don't think that I would want to want to take care of my mother. But there are some days it's hard. And not having that understanding is hard. I can talk to my husband. I can talk to my children. I can talk to the counselor. There are some days I want to talk to my mother. I'm kind of over the things with my father. And I don't say kind of over, I am over it. I invited him to come and have dinner with us, see my grandchildren, see my children. And the look that he gave my granddaughter didn't look right to me nor to my daughter. And then he asked me if he could. He told me that he would sell his house, give me $100,000, and if I would let him stay in a garage apartment. I had no idea what a garage apartment was. And then when I found out, I was like, no, that's not what we're gonna do. I cannot allow that, and something happens to my granddaughter. He grooms my granddaughter, and I didn't want anything else to happen to myself. And I didn't realize how hard it was to just say no in his face. So I realized then that something was still there. So my life experience has deepened my empathy and informed my commitment to fostering secure attachments in those I work with, especially in situations where loss and disconnection have shaped the family dynamic. I chose the attachment theory because it directly explains how early caregiving relationships shape a person's ability to trust, connect, and regulate emotions throughout life. In Michelle's case, her mother's death and her father's emotional withdrawal disrupted her secure base, leading to anger, truancy, and cultural disconnection. But one thing I realized in that story was that she found connection in her friends. And whether they were doing good or doing bad, she found a connection to something that would, something or a relationship that would care for her. So, um, Kathleen was really not happy with that. Um, In my own life, I experienced a similar disruption in early stages. A mother who was physically present but emotionally unavailable, a father who was absent during my childhood and unsafe upon his return. These early attachment injuries shaped my adolescence and influenced my role in my family. I had no trust for people, no trust. I did not trust anyone. Even as I was married before my husband now, I was married for 15 years and I was waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time. In my mind, I just knew he was going to leave. And he stuck around. He knew the things I was going through. So he stuck around. But in my mind, I was still waiting on the other shoe to drop at all times. He was the savior um, of rescuing me from my mother and all of the toxicness that I had to go through with her. She would did not love my kids, and um, I thought that she would help at least, if they were there because they're kids, and that was not true. His mother came from the Bahamas because he's Bahamian, and she came from the Bahamas to help me take care of the children, and she began to teach me how to be a lady because I did not learn from my mother. She taught me etiquette. She taught me how to take care of my children. She taught me that whooping them is not always the best thing. You have to be able to understand and talk to them and mother them. And at first, I was a mean mother because of the things that I had gone through. And my mother had told me just to, whoop them every time something happened, every time they did anything. And that was not the answer. That was not the answer. And then I found out that my mother was jealous of the relationship that I had with my husband because I was married and she was not. And she was dating a man who was married. He had been there. I've never seen her with anyone else but this man. So he's been there since I could, remember anything that he was there. And he was there and he was married. So those things happened, and I felt in my heart that he was a pedophile. Because it's just like you go through these things of rape and molestation in your family. It's like you just can feel when a man or a woman is a predator. It's just something. It's just a feeling, a discernment that lets you know that they are not right. So I have learned to forgive. I am doing my work. I'm not going to say that I am totally there. I am actually going through counseling to understand the things that I'm actually going through in my own life, in the cycle of, in the generation of my life right now, so that I don't pass the same thing to my children. Or if I have and they have questions, I'm actually able to help them maneuver and pray out their way out of things that I may have set in motion because I was emotionally a wreck and still grieving for parents that I did not have and trying to be a parent at the same time. It was very, very hard. So now in adulthood, I'm a caregiver for my mother despite our complicated history. Attachment theory not only helps me understand Michelle's family, but it also helps me to reflect on my own life cycle and stage and the importance of building secure, healing connections both personally and professionally. I love the fact that at the end of those counseling sessions, that Michelle and her father, they, I mean, I saw the aha moments every time in this counseling session, and it was amazing. Even with the brother, there was that was great, a great aha moment of him being able to get everything off his chest to let his dad know how he really felt. And his dad just, he was taking it in. He understood what they were going through. He understood what was happening. And yeah, I was grateful for that. And Kathleen, at the end, she understood also. So from the time that they got there, and it was all this like gloom and tension and everything, and he was asking her questions like, what does this have to do with what we talking about? I want to know, why is she skipping school? I want to know why she's doing the stuff that she's doing. We're not here to discuss my life. We're not here to discuss nothing. And the counselor not never one time raised her voice. She just said, this is significant in what we're doing. And I was like, yes, I loved it. And he asked twice. He asked like two, maybe two or three times. Like, again, I'm going to ask you, what does this have to do with? But it was great. It was a great session. And it really helped me to understand some of the things that I was going through in my own life. Like the word of the testimony helped me to push forward to understand what I actually was going through. So I was grateful for that, grateful to that, grateful to that. Making sure the computer don't go dead on me. So this is the end of the presentation, and I enjoyed the counseling session. I enjoyed this class. I learned a lot in human growth and development, and I am grateful. Okay.